Let's talk about Biden's inflation, which is pretty. I mean, it's funny from one end, but if you are actually living in the United States, it's not so funny. As a matter of fact, inflation's pretty high everywhere around the world. And now there's polling that Biden, instead of passing whatever the Voters' Rights Act or Build Back Better or whatever the hell is on his agenda, voters care about economics and want the inflation to drop. First of all, it says here inflation reaches a 40-year high of 7% in December. This 7%, they need to stop talking about that. That's bullshit. That's completely not true. Basically because of housing. Now, they calculate housing as owner's equivalent rent. They send a survey to people and ask if homeowners, if they were to rent out their house, how much they would rent it for. And this is so nonsensical. It's so ridiculous. Because regular homeowners are not landlords. They don't keep track, day by day of the fluctuations and like rental prices. So, according to the government statistics, it's actually 3% higher. But if you actually look at Zillow or actually look at real rental rates, rents are up 10, 15%, 20% in a lot of places. So if you factor in those real rents, real inflation is 10%. Obviously, some people with higher inflation, they get paid more because they have a commission based or whatever. But other people are salary based, and they don't get raises of 10% a year. So a lot of people, this inflation is hitting certain people differently. Obviously, if you're retired and you have like a nest egg with savings, that's awful. 10% got wiped out. And then what do you expect? I mean, the government injected so much hot money into the market. By the way, they're doing inflationary stuff under Trump. Biden is the one that got the short straw, and inflation started to be manifesting. I mean, yes, he did contribute for it for sure, especially fuel prices, cutting off the gas pipelines and stuff like that. He has a hand in it for sure, but mostly it's the Federal Reserve. And the Federal knows goddamn well that our economy is based on debt, and a lot of the companies in America basically have borrowed a lot of money to survive because interest rates were so low, and now if they're rolling over debt and interest rates start ticking up to fight inflation, a lot of those companies will go bankrupt, crumble apart. Our entire economy couldn't handle, would go into recession. Unfortunately, our economy is not healthy because of all this debt games that we've been playing. The U.S. government taking on so much debt. Everything's pure debt. So interest rates are the most important thing ever. I mean, 2% or 0% interest rates, doesn't make sense. You're gonna tell me it's like a natural economy? This is something that the market would produce, or this is something that's right, that if you were to buy a house, your interest rate is 3% for 30 years? I mean, that's crazy. Inflation is higher. The government's selling bonds at like super low. All this is super unnatural, and where it's basically a house of cards. The only saving grace for America is that other countries are in the same boat. They're doing the same things. If some other kind, like big China or something, had like hard currency or didn't debase their currency, well, yes, then America would quickly lose the reserve dollar, and although everybody would want to use as a reserve the Chinese yuan or whatever, but Japan, China, Europe, everybody's debasing their currency by a ton. So, and I guess U.S. is still the reserve currency because it's the least worst option. How long is that going to be? Who knows? So, in my opinion, what the Federal Reserve is doing is they know that 3 or 4 rate hikes would really plunge the U.S. economy into depression. The businesses can't handle it. So what they're trying to do is just talk tough and just trying to set the mood. Hey, we're going to like hike rates, we're going to stop QE, this and that. Just that talking will kind of slow the economy a little bit, taper expectations. That's what they're trying to do before they actually have to put economy in risk. They're just going to, talk tough. Let's see if it works. But the reality, this is a very unfortunate for Biden. I mean, I think Biden should fail, and he is failing, and he's a lame duck already. But the thing is, if you have a progressive, I mean, Biden maybe is not a progressive. He's not a radical leftist, but he's too demented to understand what's going on. The people that are controlling him, puppeteering him, are radical leftists, democratic socialists. But unfortunately for them, for his puppet masters, we hit a patch of a high inflation. I mean, he would have been in the clear. He could have passed all these spending programs, gave families just a bunch of money from the Federal Reserve, printed hot off the press, and in a low inflationary environment, that would have been bad. But they could have borrowed the money, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Right now, we're in a high inflationary environment, and all of us high spending, big government stuff is actually going to make it worse. So there's people like Manchin and Sinema. There's people in the Democratic Party that want to tap the brakes. So now he looks like he's completely ineffectual. At the end of the day, the Federal Reserve, I'm pretty sure they're in between a rock and a hard place. They can either tap on the brakes to save the U.S. dollar, plunging the economy into a recession. Who knows? Could be a healthy recession. A lot of these companies that are levered up on debt. I mean, a recession could be a healing process. We have a lot of bullshit debt, a lot of bullshit companies that are just only alive on cheap free credit. A lot of them would have to go bust, but that's like a forest fire. That's how the system purges itself. And after that, the economy can roar back a lot stronger. But because we live in a democracy, the government can't, because everybody's very short-sighted. Everybody's looking at the next election to hold office as long as possible without, sacrificing the long term. So what's going to happen is they're going to try to do anything possible to delay pain. And they will. And what I think is going to happen is they're going to throw the US dollar under the bus. They're going to run inflation hot, just not to cause any kind of economic slowdown. And then that's why I believe people should be prepared by owning real estate. Or owning like stocks or companies that basically that they have pricing power, that they can, inflation goes up, they can raise their prices. And the real estate does the best, I believe, because if you get fixed rate long-term debt, you can get long-term debt for 3%, 4%, lock that in, inflation could be running at 7, 10%. You can keep raising the rents, while your debt is decreasing. I mean, a lot of people have figured this out. That's why real estate is such a hot area right now. But the article goes into, while majority of critics will be further alienated by his 1.5 trillion Build Back Better bill. See, of course, this would be even worse for inflation. The Build Back Better had like child tax subsidies, like people who didn't exchange goods or services, they just got like free money from the government. Of course they're going to spend at grocery stores. Of course they're going to be pushing inflation even higher. I don't know what type of economist, or they're just like automatically just saying false. Like when Trump used to say false shit, they like media would say like, oh, he without proof or without evidence. Why doesn't the media say Biden claimed Build Back Better would lower inflation without evidence? Like, just because there's no single economist, no expert would say like, oh yeah, the 1.5 trillion from the government, that's gonna lower inflation. His 44% approval rating after his first year is lower than almost every predecessor through Ronald Reagan except for Donald Trump. And I don't know if that's a real rating because, well, it's artificially high because the media is on his side, is on the Democratic side. Of course, if they were to criticize him, they're like, it's like state-run media. It's like RT criticizing Vladimir Putin. Very, very mildly and gently. Can you imagine if Joe Biden got Trump's treatment? His approval rating probably in the 15s, 20s. A vast majority of American voters do not think President Joe Biden has priorities straight when it comes to record-setting inflation currently gripping the country. A new Dyer poll revealed Sunday. I thought, according to the left-wing pundits, inflation is a high-class problem. It's a problem for the rich. Let it run hot. So wait, you're telling me regular blue-collar people are feeling the squeeze? The agenda items the progressive president has been focused on, like his 1.75 trillion Big Back Better bill, only pushing his critics further away, according to the survey. A new poll taken January 12th or 14th showed Biden starting the year with some lackluster approval numbers, at least with just 44% support. Who are the brain-dead idiots that are like 44% of Americans actually support Biden? I mean, I could see if you're just some kind of public school teacher, or if you get your money directly from the government, or you're like military industrial complex, and you're just getting you're getting pork barrel spending on your company or whatever. You're making millions off the government. Of course, you would support like a high tax, like a big government president. Yeah. But if you're just like a regular citizen that's paying taxes, how could you support this? I don't get it. I mean, people are pretty low information voters, I guess. It's still an improvement from a devastating Quinnipiac poll released last week that gives him a 33% approval rating. Among the majority who don't support him, more than three-quarters, 76%, said of Biden's 1.75 trillion social and climate reform package was indefinitely stalled by centrists in his own party last month would not boost their opinion of him. Yeah, this is horse race stuff. His numbers of the general economy are similar, with 58% of people surveyed complaining Biden's not focusing enough on it, while 35% claiming he's focused on the economy the right amount. What's the right amount? The Labor Department said Wednesday that the Consumer Price Index rose 0.5% last month after surging 0.8% in November. I mean, he could try some business-friendly stuff. He could try some smart deregulation. I'm sure there's a lot of federal laws that are on the books that prevent economic growth. I know he's a leftist, but, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. I mean, he could try to resuscitate the economy. Biden apparently tried to highlight that slowing rate of growth as an achievement. Slowing rate of growth in the inflation. Increase pushed an annual inflation to 7% in December, which is the highest since 1982. The statement Biden called inflation a global challenge and claimed that the latest numbers were good news, showing that the monthly rate of prices increase slowed in December from prior month. He could just improve the pipelines, get the energy inflation down by letting America produce gas. Today's report, which shows a meaningful reduction in headline inflation over last month, with gas prices and food prices falling, demonstrates we're making progress in slowing the rate of price increases. Nationwide gas prices dropped 2.2%. At the same time, this report underscores that we still have more work to do. All right, he just tweeted that. A labor shortage is boosting wages, sending costs higher for businesses. and chaos in the supply chains showing little sign of easing as Omicron sidelines workers by the millions, suggesting that high inflation could persist well into 2022. Well, why? Why is there a worker shortage? Could it have something to do with people staying home because of the government money? I mean, I don't get leftists that say, oh, yeah, there's a worker shortage because people are afraid to go back to work or people decided their job sucks. Like, please. A lot of people hate their job and know that their job sucks. For some reason or another, people have the means not to work. Sunday's survey highlights Americans' dissatisfaction with the state of the economy. When compared to other presidents after their first years, Biden scores lower than nearly all the predecessors up through Ronald Reagan. Only Donald Trump's 37% approval rating after his first year is lower. Let's check out the best rated comments. His approval rating is only 33. Trump never got that low, even with all the DTS. 33 lunatics with DT. What the hell is DTS? Oh, Trump derangement syndrome? 44%, and that's with the government-run media on your side. Pathetic. Just wait till the migrants affect crime rates. People will be even angrier. Well, it's not quite the market. We have a lot of criminals in the United States committing the crimes because of loose police policies. I wouldn't say it's all the migrants per se. With a president, only president with zero swag, crap personality, no charm, no comedic timing, only acts tough against his own citizens, no control over his facilities. It needs a full-time handler. Ew.